Hi, this is William Robinson of ViralHair.com. We're here at NerdCon in Mount Belvieu, Texas with Davy Jones, the creator and writer-illustrator for Charmy's Army. And please introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, I'm Davy Jones. I do the comic strip Charmy's Army. I write it, I draw it, I produce it, I distribute it. I do everything for it. I'm the editor, and been doing it now for that particular comic strip for about 8 years, and it's been running in newspapers now for 3 years.
Okay, so where did it start? I mean, before you got into newspapers.
Well, getting into newspapers is really hard. Traditionally, you go to a syndicate, and then the syndicate says, wow, you're great. I'm going to just distribute you all over the United States, and they really don't do that anymore. Papers are kind of dying now, so they basically, when an artist passes away, instead of the strip going away, they just get new cartoonists and writers to work for it. So it's kind of hard for people with original concepts to come in and actually make it into the newspaper. So what I've done is I'm going to the weekly newspapers around the United States who traditionally don't have comic strips in them, trying to convince them that, you know, having something like that kind of gravitates people to your paper from week to week, especially the ones that just distribute them like at McDonald's and little local businesses. It gives more of an app for somebody to walk up to it and actually pick it up. And my story's been kind of working as I've been getting in more and more newspapers as it progresses. But it's just, I'm just doing it myself. I'm just calling the newspapers, emailing them one at a time, and it's really hard.
What, because Charmy's Army's, as you said, it's around army ants. Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to use ants as your main characters? So
I had a couple other comic strips that I did that weren't doing very well, and I presented them to the syndicates, and I wouldn't even hear back from the syndicates. And so I was kind of getting to where I realized I needed that special something, some kind of really different comic strip than anything else. So I decided first to get everything, channel all the bad out. So I decided I'm gonna make the worst comic strip ever, and then once I get all the bad energy out, then I'll create something great. So I created Charmy's Army. And I tried making it as stupid as possible, having army ants, adding a monkey, and just making it just as absurd and just dumb as possible. And all of a sudden I had this huge following online, and started having newspapers pick me up left and right. And so I figured, okay. But the way it came out, I was in a Chinese food restaurant, and I was thinking, oh my God, the food was horrible. I was just thinking they must have a bunch of roaches in the kitchen and just running around like crazy. And so I'll do a comic strip about a bunch of roaches. So I started drawing this bottlenose little character, and next thing you know, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, but if I put a little circle on its butt, it kind of looks like an ant, put an army helmet on army ants. Nobody's ever done anything about army ants. And that's basically how it came across. And then I went home that evening, wrote three different strips and drew them out, published them online. All of a sudden, boom, I had a big following on my blog site, and made a Facebook page, and the following just kicked in real big, and people really seemed to like it. And I was going for something completely different and something really stupid, and that's how it came about.
Now, as a fan of your stuff myself, I've seen you go from satire to some really emotionally driven stories,
yes,
to just complete, like what the Monty Python guys call it, stream of consciousness, just totally nuts. Let's see what happens next type of stories.
Yeah. Huge fan of Monty Python, by the way.
So, does the inspiration just come differently, or each time, or you figure, let's try this out this time, or how do you kind of plot things out, or you just kind of...
There's no plotting out. Things just happen. On my lunch breaks every day at work, I go sit down and I write. And it's just, maybe it depends upon how bad things are going at work. I don't know. That's when the emotional things come out. But I've always wanted to do a comic strip that was a little different than your traditional comic strips. I like having some emotion in the comic strip so you can kind of tie in and really feel for some of these characters. I love Frenchie having her bad Tuesday. She always has bad Tuesdays. And it's kind of fun to play on that. And I actually have some stuff that's going to be coming up to kind of explain the whole Tuesday situation. That's gonna be more of a heartwarming kind of strip. But that's I don't want to give anything away right now. But yeah, I do plot things out. I've got like a 10-year plan already set for Charmy's Army where characters will change and stuff. And man, syndicates pick me up. I'm telling you, you're missing out on something big.
Right. So, kind of like the examples I can go by in that is probably like the Funky Winker Bean or Crankshaft, or even the old Phantom
Yeah.
or,
Oh, yeah.
or comic strips, there was always some kind of change, or you can see over the years how things would change with these
Oh, yeah.
characters. Is that kind of, so you're talking about
Exactly.
your plan is kind of the way it sounds like you're
Oh,
planning your
yeah.
stuff out.
Yeah, because right now, basically, even though I don't really play up the fact that they're in the Army in the comic strip, they are in the Army, and there's going to be some changes where right now they're just in like basic training and stuff, and it's going to plot out, and over the years things will change. They are going to go to war later and stuff like that. So there's going to be situation changes and stuff, but I want to keep it really crazy and upbeat. It's still going to be really silly, but I just want to make sure that things kind of progress in a manner where it grows, as opposed to just being just one stale storyline forever and ever. We just can't have them sitting in a coffee bar all the time talking and doing jokes. I want to have more different situations and more opportunities come up for the characters. It helps them grow, and it helps the readers really feel like they know the characters better too.
Now, when you say they're Army, you don't want to be kind of stagnant all the time. Even though, like, for example, MASH was a great series.
Yeah.
It kind of just was the same camp all the time. Very rarely do you need outside influences.
Yeah.
So, we seem to say kind of that kind of humor at times, but you want to see them different places in their life or how things progress with the Army.
Yeah, and also the whole basis of them being in this camp and everything is so secondary, because if you notice, a lot of my strips don't take place in the camp anyway. They're at the little coffee bar, or all of a sudden there's a fantasy sequence with Warrior Winch Wendy out fighting dragons or ogres or whatever. Or I want to make sure when people look at my comic strip, they don't go, "Oh, this is just Beetle Bailey with ants."
Right.
So it's just kind of a secondary tier to the whole story, but the basis of the story is just these four characters that just really care and intertwine. Well, most of them care about each other. Charmy kind of hates the monkey, but but all in all, though, it's a very caring atmosphere. And as things change, though, characters may come and go. I'm still working out some things that I don't want to give out just yet to everybody.
Right. So how many newspapers actually are you being in right now? How many?
5.
5.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're going, oh, everybody's going, oh, 5, that's not a lot of papers, but it's a lot of papers. It's so hard to get in the newspaper, especially when you're doing it yourself. A lot of the newspapers just don't want to spend that extra $5 a week just to put a strip in there. And that's all I'm charging. It's not a lot of money. But when you get into daily comic strips, then papers, then it starts adding up. Right now, I'm only in weekly papers. My goal is to maybe in a couple years to have enough papers coming in where I can go ahead and say, okay, I can start doing this on a daily basis and start creating more strips. I really want to start doing it on a daily basis, but right now it just doesn't make sense only being in 5 weekly newspapers.
Right. Now, one thing you're known for at cons is your mashups.
Yes.
Like,
that's called survival. I go in there with just my character, the little prints of my characters, and people are just going to walk by and just go, oh, okay, whatever. But when they see Charmy as Batman or Spider-Man or whatever, then all of a sudden they go, oh, wow, this is kind of neat. And then when you really hook it in, do some really darker stuff like Doctor Who and stuff like that, then you really start getting some attention. So I did it kind of just to draw people over. And for the longest time, I had this big print wall and all this stuff. And I'm trying to tone that down because I'm starting to have my comic books being released. And I want to have more focus on the actual creation of the actual characters and stories and stuff, as opposed to these little mashups. But mashups bring in some money. So.
Right. Now, one thing I've kind of noticed some of your mashups is that sometimes the same humor you use in Charmy's Army creeps into your little cards and stuff. Is that just part of the fun for you to kind of?
I just want to make it. I just want people as they're flipping through, just not to say, "Oh, that's cute," but "Oh, wait, let me read this real quick. Oh, that's funny too." So, I love writing, and I just can't. Usually, when I'm doing my sketch cover commissions for some of my readers and stuff, they'll say, they just want this scene or that scene, but I'll go and spin it and actually make it like into a little humorous little story, and it's just part of what I do.
And does that help with your exposure coming back to Charmy's Army? Okay, this is my style, and if you get my books or strip, this is what you'll see all the time.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the good things about my characters and stuff. They're very mashable, which is really good. Some of the other comic strips I had before, I couldn't have done what I'm doing right now. All these little mashups and stuff. These characters work really good with just meshing them up with pop culture icons and stuff, and it's really weird because they come out looking just like the characters are depicted. I'll show you an example. Got some examples in here of what we're talking about. So here's the Charmy's Army as the Beatles, and there's Charmy as Gene Simmons a Kiss. It's just a lot of fun, and it just gives me just that little bit of difference when I'm out there in Artist Alley.
Right. Now, do you see Charmy's Army kind of saying with the printed page mostly, or do you have anything animation or?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I actually have, if you go to my website and look where I think it says like others or miscellaneous, you can click on that link, and there's a thing that says videos. I actually did a little animated clip, and I did the voice of Charmy. It sounds really bad, but but it's really fun, and I'm actually writing some scripts for like a little TV series and stuff, but I don't know who to go to. That's another magic about these Comic Cons. I'm meeting people who I'm kind of rubbing elbows with, who can be some influences on stuff like that. But I really would love to do a Charmy's Army TV series. Kind of like in the vein of like Animaniacs, just crazy, zany, just silly, just one boom, 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 joke, 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 joke. And that's how I've been writing these scripts.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for your time, Davey,
Yep.
and hope the show goes well.
It's going to go great. Thank you so much for having me.